we've all had to quit at least one thing for our cut in order for our cut to occur more effectively. And this includes myself as well. So I'm going to be sharing to you guys the 3 things that I had to quit in order for me to get this lean more effectively. Like the moment I quit these 3 things, getting to 10% was so much easier. So stay locked in because I'm going to be telling you the 3 things that I had to quit. And you guys may not like the first 2, but it has to be said, you know. But anyways, the first one is eating whatever I want just because it fits my calories. Now, yes, you can eat whatever you want and still lose fat and still lose weight, but it will only happen if you hit enough protein or if you're still able to, you know, control that afterwards. Because if you just eat whatever you want, that basically kind of means you wouldn't even mind incorporating, you know, these high palatable foods. Now you can still eat these high palatable foods and still lose fat or weight, etc., and still get lean, but it's very, very difficult to control eating these high palatable foods. Why? Because they're high palatable and it's very easy to overeat them, and therefore it will make fat loss so much harder if you just eat whatever you want, especially if it's foods that's high palatable. So that's what I'd recommend whenever you guys, for your nutrition, when it comes to nutrition, especially getting to 10% body fat, you want to keep it as low palatable as possible. We'll still obviously incorporating some high palatable clean foods, not like processed foods though, because high palatable processed foods just makes you crave way more of it than high palatable clean foods. But high palatable clean foods is slightly better. You can incorporate some of that within your diet, but the aim for your diet is to make the diet as low palatable as possible. And so, because you got to understand that the diet, now especially on a cut, it's not something you should view just tasty. It's something that's tasty and it's for fuel. So therefore, that's what I'm saying. If you include food that are as low palatable as possible, but you still enjoy eating it, you still find these foods tasty, then that's how you're going to be sticking to the diet. It's going to make fat loss easier because it's going to help you stick to the diet way more easier, and therefore you're not going to be feeling like messing up. You're not going to feel like binging. You may get a little bit of cravings, but you're not going to get as much cravings. Whereas if you just ate whatever you want, and it's just because it fits your calories, which does work again, but it just makes fat loss so much harder, and it just, you know, it increases diet fatigue if you just do it that way. Whereas if you aim to consume whole foods that are as low palatable as possible, then it will just help to manage diet fatigue so much more. Like diet fatigue will just become much less, you know. It'll be easier to manage diet fatigue. So instead of me just eating whatever I want just because it fits my calories, instead I followed the proper structured meal plan with making the foods as low palatable as possible and avoiding processed foods within my cut, because that is what just helps to manage my diet fatigue much more. It just makes me want to mess up less if I don't incorporate processed foods or just eat whatever I want once it hits my calories. So that's the first thing. And so now the second thing, which is kind of similar to the first one, is eating variety. Eating variety, not because it doesn't work, but it's just something that you don't need, and it's something that, like, it just makes my life so much easier if I don't eat variety and if I just stick to a structured meal plan, eating the same food, same meals daily, doing like little minor swaps of foods within the same category. For example, well, for fruits, right, you know, I would swap sometimes blueberries with kiwis, you know, kiwis with apples instead. I would only make minor swaps on these. Other than that, I wouldn't incorporate variety within my diet, especially with like variety of different clean foods, you know. Like for example, like one day I would have, I don't know, let's say red meat and that, another day I'll have chicken thighs and that, another day I'll have drumsticks and that, and then this would then lead to me having to drop the, you know, the volume and the weight for the other parts of my foods that are part within my meal within the diet, and therefore it would make my life harder. But whereas if I just stuck to a structured meal plan, that's very sustainable for me. That allows me to, that makes meal prepping easier for me. And that requires less decision fatigue simply because you're eating the same foods. It just makes meal prepping easier. It just saves time, saves money if I just eat the same foods and same meals daily, rather than just incorporating a variety of different like clean foods, even processed foods as well within my diet. Because a lot of you guys think that you need variety within your diet. You really don't. If anything, you're going to experience way more benefits of having a structured, proper meal plan where you just eat the same meals consistently for a prolonged period of time, depending on how much body fat you have to get to 10%. And yeah, if anything, if you do that instead, you'll experience way more consistent, better energy levels than you just eating variety. Because you don't really need variety in your diet. Like I said, you don't need it, especially if you want to get to 10% body fat. Now, if you're bulking and stuff, then yeah, you can do that. Be my guest, because you're going to be having a lot of calories. Therefore, it's going to be easier for you to play with a lot of calories. So for bulking, okay, that's different, but I'm talking about for cutting specifically. Since it's going to be in lower calories, it's going to be harder for you to eat variety, and you're just going to give yourself that more of a decision fatigue from deciding how I'm going to fit this into this, how am I going to fit this into this, what's hitting my calories and macros. So that's why it's not really a good idea. And the moment I quit doing that, it just makes dieting so much easier as well. And if anything, you would experience way less diet fatigue if you just eat the same meals daily rather than eating variety. Because you're gonna less likely feel like eating off plan if you just eat the same meals, because it's the same meals, right? So that's why it's a very good idea to be having a structured meal plan, especially if you want to get to this level condition of 10% body fat. So that's the second thing. Now the third thing is, and this is probably the biggest mistake I did back in my past, and it's something that I had to quit, is simply aggressive cutting. Guys, you need to stop these aggressive cuts, 1600 calories. Now I'm not saying they don't work, but they're very unsustainable, and it has a lot of negative effects on doing it. For example, it will just ruin your metabolism. It will, give you way less energy in your gym performance. Your training performance is going to suffer, leading to an increased risk of muscle loss, and you're just not going to have the energy to be doing daily tasks throughout the day. Not saying that they don't work, like I said, but you do experience a lot of negative side effects on doing that. And also, it's very unsustainable for most people, and for me especially. I'm talking from my own experience as well. Something that I had to quit because it led to me crash dieting a lot, leading me to binge eating. Therefore, I would regain however much weight I would lose, I would regain that all back simply. Like, you'll get this like your diet cycle if you just keep doing aggressive cuts. You keep crash dieting, you regain the weight back, and you repeat that cycle again and again, and therefore you'll just be stuck being at a certain body fat percentage. You'll be stuck at 20% body fat. You'll be stuck at 25%. You will never lose fat if you just keep crash dieting, aggressive cutting, crash dieting, and that's why aggressive cuts aren't a very good idea, and they're not really good for you to do. So instead, what I did is I ate as much food as I can, was also dropping 0.7 to 1 kg per week through increased output and keeping food as high as possible for as long as possible. This way your metabolism will still be running. It won't put your metabolism in the bin. Instead of slashing your calories down by 1,000 and raising the cardio so high, instead I started just below maintenance, and I increased the deficit further by doing more output. But obviously I didn't initially start doing a high amount of output. Instead, I kept the output as low as possible by doing 20 minutes of zone 2 cardio, moderate cardio daily, whether that's from a Stairmaster, incline treadmill, or a cross bike. And I would do 10k steps, just simply because it just allows you to burn more calories without you feeling fatigued. you know, because it's low intensity, right? Same with when it comes to the zone 2 cardio. So that's how I set up my calories for fat loss. That way, what's going to happen if you do it that way? You're going to get better energy levels. You're going to get way less diet fatigue, and it's just going to help with your training performance within the gym, help with your energy levels as well. AKA, it will help maintain gym floor performance. So those are kind of the 3 things that I had to quit. And the moment I quit that, fat loss just became so much easier, and I managed to get to this level condition right here. So if you find this video helpful, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you want my help to get to 10% body fat, then click the link down below within the description of this video. If not, then the fact that you watch this video is good enough for me. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you in the next video.